Hey guys, today we're going to remove the fuel pump assembly and replace the fuel regulator on my 2009 Buell XB12 SCG. These were the tools that I used to do the removal and installation. Alright, the first thing we have to do is loosen the pinch bolt for the rear axle to remove the rear tire. Using a 3/8 inch Allen head socket. Next, I'm going to use my axle removal tool and a breaker bar to remove the rear axle. At this point, you just want to loosen it up. Before you remove the rear axle, you have to jack your bike up, or in my case I used a hoist because I have an aftermarket exhaust that does not allow me to use a center jack underneath the exhaust. Once the axle comes out, put it along the side. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the rear wheel and slowly work it forward. What you're trying to do is loosen up the belt so that you can slip the belt off the rear sprocket. It's kind of a shortcut. In the manual it tells you to remove a whole bunch of other things to remove the rear belt. We're going to do it this way. Slowly slip it off the teeth. Should be pretty easy and gentle. And once the belt is off, your tire will slip out. Next, we're going to remove the left side foot plate. There's 3 screws, and they're removable using a 3/16 inch Allen wrench or Allen head socket. We're going to remove the rear fender, just 2 screws using number 27 Torx bolt. And now we're going to remove the rear shock. Uses a number 40 Torx bolt and either a 1/2 inch box wrench or a 1/2 inch socket. Once you remove the bolt holding the shock, you're going to let the swing arm extend fully. Make sure you put the bolt somewhere and remember where you're at. Next, we're going to remove the drain plug to drain the fuel tank. You'll want a catch basin underneath the bike to catch the fuel as it comes out. The drain plug uses a 1/2 inch socket to remove. Be careful not to strip the bolt. It's kind of shallow. So once you loosen up the bolt, you're going to want to get something to direct the fuel into the catch basin, or it's just going to squirt all over the place. I used a piece of aluminum and bent it. I also rode my bike around until my fuel tank was pretty empty before doing this. It saves you some time and you won't have to worry about as much fuel. Please note, do not have any open flames in the area. Be in a well-ventilated area. Once the fuel is drained, go and put the plug back in. Careful not to cross-thread the plug when putting it back in. Make sure the little O-ring is okay. And the torque spec is in the user manual. I just tightened it up to what I felt was appropriate. Next, you're going to want to purge the fuel line. You're going to unplug the 4-prong plug, and it's going to be underneath the seat. It's going to be connected to the fuel pump. You're going to unplug it, and then you're going to start the bike. And that should clear the line of any residual fuel, and then the bike will just sputter and die. And the next thing you want to do is remove the fuel line. As you can see, when I made this video, I went out of order. I actually did not purge the fuel line at all. I'm trying to show you the right way to do it. The procedure is listed in the service manual. So once you finish purging the line and now you're working on removing the fuel line, you're going to use a 1/2-inch socket on the little nut holding the fuel line onto the connector. And note that in this video, the 4 screws holding the pump assembly into the frame have already been removed. You will not have removed those screws yet when you're doing this. Once the nut comes off, the fuel line will come off the little connector, and any residual fuel in that line will come out. So you just have a towel. As you can see, I didn't purge the line, so there's a little bit more fuel. Next, you're going to remove the 4 screws holding the fuel pump assembly into the tank. It uses a 3/16" Allen head socket or Allen wrench. And the bottom right screw will require you to use an Allen wrench to unscrew, because the clearance between the screw and the swing arm is kind of tight. Remove all 4 screws. Put them somewhere safe. This next part is where you remove the assembly from the fuel tank. Buell has a special fuel pump assembly puller. I don't have that tool, but I found that using 2 small flathead screwdrivers, you can put them into these little notches on the side of the fuel pump, and you just slowly work the pump out. You'll want to do it from both sides at the same time to try to pull it out as evenly as possible, because you want it to come out straight. And it comes out relatively easy once you get the flathead screwdriver to the side. As you can see, I'm just messing around with it, kind of loosen it up a little bit. now it's out. It's out far enough. You see some fuel coming out, whatever is at the bottom of the tank that couldn't drain. So once again, you want to put a little rag down to kind of mop up any fuel spillage. Now before you remove the pump assembly, you'll want to throw another rag down on the swing arm. That's just going to prevent you from scratching the swing arm when you're trying to get the pump assembly out. It does require a little finesse and turning of the assembly, so just be careful. I'm going to pull it out, and it's about a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation on the assembly. It's relatively easy. Just pull it out, start to rotate it. You'll get to a point where you'll start to slide out as you turn. You're gonna pull it out and up. The first time I did this, it actually came out really easy. This time it was a little trickier for me. But you just want to make sure you're not forcing anything. Just if it doesn't want to come out, just rotate it back in a little bit. And rotate it back out. Just play with the rotation of the pump. Usually it's the regulator that kind of catches on the side of the fuel tank if it's coming out. So and once you rotate it correctly, slip right out. See, there you go. It came out. It's one whole piece, whole assembly. And you can move on to the workbench to do anything you need to do, like remove the fuel pump, or replace the regulator with the fuel filter. Now I'm going to remove the regulator. I used my narrow flathead screwdriver for this, and you just want to be careful because the little retaining clip, the white clip, and the black hooks, I guess you can call them, holding the regulator are all plastic. So you just want to kind of wedge your screwdriver underneath the little black clip, get in between that and the white retaining clip, and just lightly pry it so that it's loose. And you'll go around and do it for all four of those little prongs. And once all four are loose, the little retaining clip comes off, and the little black clips just push aside. So what you want to do is use one hand to push the clips aside while you use a screwdriver to lightly pry the regulator loose. The regulator is held in by the O-ring. So sticking the flathead screwdriver and just slowly, lightly working it. You don't want to damage it. So just lightly work on it and you feel it get loose. You'll actually see it. You want to pull those little black clips out of the way. Once it all comes, it'll just pop off eventually. And there's the new regulator. This one, put it in, push it in, and you'll feel it kind of click in. Once it clicks in, your little black clip should be fitting over the lip. And once that's you're done, you slip the little white retaining ring back over. Now we'll just keep those little black clips from removing. It secures the regulator to its housing. This one is important. You should replace the O-rings on the assembly. It makes putting the assembly back into the frame a whole lot easier because these O-rings expand a little bit, and when you're trying to put the assembly back into the fuel tank, you're going to have issues with the O-ring possibly pinching. I was able to put the assembly back into the tank once without replacing the O-rings, and that was a pain in the butt. So just buy the O-rings, replace the O-rings, and it'll make your life a lot easier. So there's 2 O-rings, slip into the grooves on the other side. Now, to install the fuel pump assembly back into the fuel tank is just as easy as taking it out. Just remember how you pulled it out and about how it was oriented. And you're going to slip it back in and rotate it clockwise while pushing it in. You use your left hand to remove any fuel, any of the cables and tubes out of the way. Guided into slowly work it in. And once again, the hard part is getting that regulator in first. And once it's in, you just start rotating. It's going to be clockwise. Back in. So you're going to have the fuel line connector on top and the drain plug on bottom. And what I'm getting right now is a little bit of grease. I'm going to put a little grease on the O-ring just so that it slides in, it doesn't catch, makes the installation easier. So I just put a little grease on the O-rings all the way around, not too much. Slide the assembly back into the fuel tank. You want to make sure that little fuel strainer, that little white sock looking thing, doesn't get pinched. So what you're going to do is, as you're pushing the assembly in, pushing the assembly in, you're just going to tuck those little sock back inside the fuel tank. And what you want to do is put those 4 screws in, and when you have the assembly in as it is in now, you can get the screws started. So you're going to get all 4 screws started, holding the assembly into the fuel tank. And then you're going to slowly tighten each one of those screws in a crisscross pattern, pulling the fuel pump assembly back into the fuel tank. And you want it to be as even as possible. You see I'm only doing 3 of the screws. The one on the bottom right is the one that requires the Allen wrench because of the tight clearance. So once it's pulled in far enough for me to start working on that bottom right screw, that I go ahead and screw it in. Once the fuel pump assembly is fully into the fuel tank, it's time to install the rear shock. So you get the bolt, and there's a little bushing that you have to kind of play around with to get the shock back in place. Put the bolt back in. You might want to put a little lube on that bolt. I'm going to put the nut on the left hand side. So you slide the bolt in, put the nut on. And once again, all torque values that you need to know are in the service manual. I would suggest that you have a service manual if you plan to do this kind of thing. Next, you're going to put the rear fender back on. And it's just 2 screws. And now we're going to put the rear tire back on. This takes a little more finesse. It's you just have to kind of watch what you're doing. Make sure you don't pinch the belt. Kind of lift it up. Roll the tire in, then you're going to have to lift the tire to get into the right position. You're also going to have to kind of mess around on the left hand side to make sure that your rotor and your brake calipers don't get all messed up. So once you line everything up, get your axle ready. You can use 2 people to make the job easier. I'm going to do it by myself here. You line everything up. You're going to kind of push the tire forward a little bit so that you can get the belt on. You're going to slip the belt on. Make sure that all the teeth match up. You can see that the teeth aren't matched up right now. I'm going to adjust it until all the teeth are lined up correctly. And to skip. Slide the axle. Tire a little bit, line everything up. I have to pull on the tire just a little bit since the belt will put a little pressure on that tire. So we're going to get the axle started. I want to get it to thread and start. Now you're going to lower the bike to finish tightening up the axle. So lower the bike to the ground. And you torque your rear axle and then tighten that pinch bolt. And the last thing you do is you put that left foot peg back on and tighten the 3 screws. that's done, go ahead and reattach your battery and put the seat back on.